What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another UFL Talks, little pregame talks, little postseason talks, looking ahead at what we've got to expect going into the last week of the UFL season. We've got the United Bowl coming up this week, and ultimately a lot ahead for everybody. So, should be a very exciting time, and ultimately, we do have a lot to look ahead to. Good week of football in the semifinal and week 10. So the season really, for the teams that didn't make it to the playoffs, really came off to a very strong start. And I think it was impressive. And I think there's a lot to be proud of, not only for the players, regardless of them making it to the United Bowl. You know, it was a hard fought season. It was a long season, hard fought. And ultimately, there was a lot there that I think the team should be excited about. The players not only got to put some tape on, get some tape, but also, they got a chance to prove themselves and they got a chance to compete. That's front and center for a lot of these players. But before we dive into for a little housekeeping, you know how it is. Like, subscribe, make sure you're notified so you can stay in the discussion as we're going live. A couple more streams coming up this week. We'll be looking ahead. Probably going to do a little bit of World Cup coverage as well. So we will have a little kickoff for that on Friday, separate from our normal coverage as well. So those of you that do appreciate the World Cup and are looking ahead to see what this year will bring, while things will be in a little bit of a lull in the off season. We'll be covering some NFL signings as we head into the NFL season, and then of course, we'll be covering the NFL, but there will be some of that bulk time in the middle where we may look to fill it with some World Cup coverage. So look ahead to that. We should have a lot to look ahead to this year. It should be a great year in sport, and ultimately, looking ahead at this week specifically with the United Bowl, I think that's really something to be excited about. It should be a very good time, and ultimately we did see a little pregame, I guess, getting out. So we are only so it'll be Saturday, so we're about 3 days out right now, and we have a little bit of a kickoff party. I suppose it's just kind of more like part of that fan celebration. Ultimately, I think this is, well, first let's get into what it is. A chance for the fans, especially those that are trying to make this more of an event. So, come out, visit the event on Thursday, stay for the weekend, go to the game, do what you got to do. But when you look at it, it'll be, an evening event on Thursday. You got coaches there, players, mascots, the trophy. You'll have some activities for the fans, battle of the DJs, some giveaways. Really should be a very good time. And we know what teams are going to make it to the United Bowl, so expect it to be heavy on the DC teams and the Kings for fan bases. But at the same time, it is the championship. So when you look at like the Super Bowl, you've got a lot of people attending, from all over in every franchise. And I wouldn't be surprised if you see, if you're at that game, you're probably going to see jerseys from a lot of different UFL teams. And that's nothing to be ashamed of. It'll be a good time. And really, when it comes to the United Bowl, it is kind of a testament to the fan. They get the opportunity to go out and really reflect on successful spring football. It's been a long season, but so far, you know, we're up and to the right now, and that's a big win. And I think when you look at fan base attendance wise, that which have made it to the United Bowl, Kings have been doing well. Don't get me wrong, Louisville is far from DC, but the Kings are doing well. And then when you look at DC, one of the stronger franchises, at least when it comes to the fan base year over year. We got the beer snake. They are kind of they got the culture. When a DC Defenders game happens, it's kind of an event. The city is pretty much behind the team, and then when you look at that, you know, their attendance wasn't. There were questions when it comes to attendance this year. I mean, if we look real quick, for DC, they're sitting at 12,000, 7,000, 7,000, 7. So pretty much sitting at 8,000. Let's call it as an average. But 9,000 in week 10, 12,000 in week 3. So don't be surprised if you see 9,000, let's call it 9,000 fans, from DC. But you add that 9,000 and then let's look at Louisville, maybe they've got, let's call it 2,000. I'm sitting at 11,000, maybe more. And, the stadium can only hold about 22,000, I think. So could develop into a very interesting dynamic. But this event, the kickoff at the Wharf, should be a good time for those that are in the area. I'd encourage them to go. If I was in the area, I'd be attending, maybe doing some interviews, getting whatever information I can. But ultimately, should be a very good time. And I would say, why not go? Doors open at 5:30. You got the trophy photos, a little bit of some activities and giveaway. 6 p.m. We got Coach Redmond be there, some players, which I imagine probably be Cam Gill, probably Chandler Rogers, Isaiah Winstead probably, and then you look at 6:15. We got the DC defender, so Coach Harris will be coming in, and then player wise, I wouldn't be surprised if Tamu shows up. It's not contact. Don't be surprised if he shows up and you know get some fan activity. The Battle of the DJ should be interesting. Anyone that attends, I'd be interesting to hear exactly how it goes. And I'm sure the swag will be good. It'll be a good time. So I look ahead to that. Then a little follow up to some news we brought you yesterday about a new sponsor coming onto the league, which was Morgan and Morgan. And actually, what kind of is surprising, and in the first time ever in professional sports, we will have a sponsor on a penalty flag. So don't get me wrong, the league needs money. They definitely need money, but at the same time, we are monetizing every space we can. And honestly, I'm not against it. It's a perfect color for the Morgan and Morgan. The logo, the yellow really is kind of on brand for them. So really a smart opportunity, and I think the league really made a good choice when they signed this deal. However, it ended up coming together, whether it just be for the United Bowl or going into the rest of the season, and we can see this, season long, you know, really a good sign because you're starting to see some real strong corporations backing the league, and ultimately, I think that says a lot looking ahead. Then kind of recap some of the other news we had. The assistant coach of the year was announced. We haven't had the coach of the year announced. I wouldn't be surprised if they wait, depending on. Well, ultimately, they may announce it before the United Bowl, but I think it's going to come down to Coach Redmond or Coach Harris. What Coach Harris has been able to do, getting his team back to the championship, but then also Coach Redmond, where his team was, getting them to the championship, is that even more impressive? And ultimately, that's a question that the voters are going to have to decide. And, I'm not one, but if I was, my vote might go to Coach Redmond, just based on, the turnaround that team has had. And if nothing else, I think it's it meshes well. It really does with what Louisville has started. The kind of the feel of the team, the connection with the city. That's really the relationship that started to blossom, I would say, and ultimately, a lot to look ahead to there. But we'll talk more about that when that gets announced. Our assistant coach of the year, Corey Chamblin, really was the reason the Battlehawks stayed in every single game. It came down to that defense. He was the one that was dialing it up, making those adjustments. And ultimately, this defense, schematically may have been not only the best in the league, but maybe the best in recent memory in football. It managed to, contain and control offenses. Right off the rip, week one, you get the most prolific offense, the DC Defenders, and they end up losing because the Battlehawks defense is so good. So don't be surprised if you start to see more movement, I'd say, off the Battlehawks because that defense really performed and ultimately the coaching did as well. So don't be surprised if he maybe makes a leap to the next level. Then looking at our next bit of awards, so our Sportsman of the Year nominees did come in. We got one from each team. So one of the more exciting ones here, Cornell Powell, who I think is probably my front runner to win this award because it's unlikely he does take home the MVP. But more than likely, I'd say it's Cornell Powell, Alex Cook, or Mac Brown. Mac Brown is, got a good chance, but more than likely Cornell Powell will do it. Then we look at our all UFL team offense. So one thing to note, one of the last teams left alive in the league, The Louisville Kings doesn't have a single player on the All UFL offense, so that is surprising. Ultimately, they had a good defense, but their offense, they put up points. So it is surprising that not a single player for them ended up making it to the list. But looking at who we'll see in the United Bowl, it's going to be Deion Jackson. And then the tackle off the offensive line. And ultimately, that tackle, running back, passing game relationship is very intertwined. So don't be surprised if they end up really putting up a dominant game like they did in the semifinals and in week 10. So I'm excited for for the defenders. The battle that we're going to see between them and the Kings really should be an interesting, I'm going to say 4 quarters, and odds are we might even go into overtime, which we'll see how that happens. But I think it'll be a very evenly matched team because you got a really good offense on DC that's going up against a very good defense in the Kings and vice versa. But you look at our all UFL defense, corner or David Roberson on here as well for the linebacker position. So getting himself some recognition this year. And then Cam Gill ends up taking home a position on this, really for that DN side of things. And then Bugs, dominant performer in spring football, performer in every level of football he's ever played, but really, was making a difference this year across the UFL. He showed up, and when he was in that interior offensive line, well, couldn't run the ball, couldn't pass the ball, couldn't do nothing. So one thing I will say, the defense was kind of the star of the UFL this season, and ultimately it came down to the talent. There's a lot of guys that end up moving on from the defensive side of the ball to the NFL. And when they make that leap, maybe they don't get it immediately. Maybe they get a rotational role, couple plays here, couple plays there. But ultimately, that is a sign of the league's success. They want to develop these players. They want to give them that opportunity to get back to the league. And when you look at how the performance has been, I think some of the front runners to kind of go to the NFL will really kind of come from the defensive backfield, our safeties, our corners, maybe some linebackers, but ultimately, don't be surprised if you see a lot of changeover when it comes to that defensive talent. Some folks are going to stick around, like DeZino. Others may take that leap just as a result of their performance this season. Then looking at our all UFL special teams, no surprise here. Tanner Brown kind of leading the way in the kicker position. Then you got Ryan Sanborn, Marco Ortiz, Chris Rowland, Sean Fresh, and then Gary Jennings. And one thing I will say, which is more a compliment to the Battlehawks, while their offense may have struggled, their defense, we've already talked about, one of the better in the league, but their special teams also kept them in a lot of games. The punter really was doing well, enabled that defense to really excel and get some favorable positioning. But at the same time, when you look at Gary Jennings, he was doing everything. Sean Fresh really was doing well, got often 30-yard returns, and that can put the offense in a good position. While the offense struggled, the defense often was in a good position, whether it be from the punter or just generally from how the offense was going. They'd get the ball, they'd go down 40 yards, they'd, turn the ball over on downs, however it ended up happening. But the Battlehawks really were one of the more dynamic teams this year. The offense was not the star of their game. It was the defense, it was the special teams. And I wouldn't even say, it was mainly the defense. And that's testament to the assistant coach of the year, who did end up getting his recognition. Corey Chamberlain deserved it all, really did. He really was going, not only taking leaps and bounds, but at the same time was excelling in the direction for the betterment of the players. So don't be surprised if a few of his players make the leap to the NFL. And when they do, we'll be discussing it. But at the same time, that's some exciting stuff. That's a sign that the league is making those steps. All UFL defense, we had Carlos Davis on the defensive tackle position. Pretty good job. But all in all, it was a team contribution when it came to their defense. When it was, let's say it's a short pass, we're talking 11 hats on a helmet. We're talking everybody going, tackling. They were finishing plays. And that was one thing I really am proud of the Battlehawks because there's a lot of questions going into the season, and one thing that kept was at least steady across every year in the UFL so far has been their defense. And then looking at Marco Ortiz, the long snapper, one thing I'll say about the Gamblers, they sure were punting a lot. So when you're punting a lot, it does give those opportunities for your specialists like your long snappers to get showcased. But on our kick returner, Chris Rowland, the Storm, tough loss last week. Don't get me wrong. Very, very tough loss. But at the same time, one of the more dynamic players in the UFL and one of the more exciting talents to watch. And when you look across the league, you really start to see the the separation between Roland and the rest of the receivers. So when we look at our all UFL offense, we got Hakeem Butler, great player. Chris Rowland, boom, deserved, got his recognition. He was the safety blanket of Jack Plummer. Then you look at Tyler Vaughn's, really good performer. Renegade suffered, but Roland almost made himself more, put himself into a position to really make a difference in a lot of those games. And I think that when you look at what players kind of come down to when it comes to that recognition, getting that notice, and separating yourself from the rest of the pack. It comes down to can you make those differences. So when you look at receiving yards, he's at 529, top 5 receiving yards in the season. So he's getting the yardage. You look at his receptions, 53. More receptions than anyone else in the league. So really a dynamic performance out of Roland. And I think, wherever you put him on the field, he's going to make a difference. Unfortunately, the Storm's season has ended. But turning now to our players of the year for the UFL, we'll get first into our special teams player of the year, and this should come as no surprise. Tanner Brown taking home this recognition. He deserves it. Multiple players of the week on the special teams side, and also one of the larger highlight producers when it comes to his 60-yard kicks, or just more generally in the fact that when, the Kings, a lot of the games the Kings won, it came down to his leg. Often the only points they were scoring was a result of their kicker. And when you just look at the semifinals, 63 yarder and a 60-yarder in one game. That's 8 points just off your kicker. If your kicker's able to put up those numbers, don't be surprised if you're able to win games like they've been able to. They go into the Battle Dome. They take home the win, even after a tough loss earlier in the season. DC comes to town. They beat them. They go to DC. They beat them. The kicker has a serious role to play, especially for a team like the Kings, where often, they get the points when they can get them, but it's a shootout half the time in those games. And ultimately, at the end, they generally pull away, but it's a shootout. And who keeps them in that striking distance and able to take home the win often is their kicker. So Tanner Brown, very deserved, really, really good performance this season. One of the more coveted talents coming into the offseason, especially for the NFL. And once this season concludes this week, don't be surprised if he's the first one that announces the deal done. So keep an eye out for that. And then our defensive player of the year, and I've been calling it out all season long, Cam Gill, really deserving. Off the sacks alone, separated himself from the rest of the league. Don't be surprised Cam Gill comes back next season. Could end up being one of the more recognizable names in the UFL, especially how things have been going for him, because he's really been doing well in the new iteration of the UFL. 10 sacks this season, pretty impressive. Out of 10 games, that's basically a sack a game. That changes games for you. One sack, and let's say that helps you take away a drive. You take away a drive, that helps you get up in the point differential. You get up in the point differential, you have the chance to get a win. So Cam Gill, very deserving. Ultimately, those that have had the chance to watch his game this season, it's been impressive. Whether it be setting the edge on the outside or rushing the quarterback, getting the sack. Really impressive play out of Cam Gill. And honestly, one of the more exciting players going into the United Bowl. Because whoever ends up playing quarterback, which we think will be Jason Bean, we're pretty sure it'll be Bean, Cam Gill's going to be coming. And Bean was on the team formerly, so it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. Will Gill, know Jason Bean's moves? Is he going to know the way that he escapes pressure? What is he going to know about him, and will he be able to leverage that? And will it make a difference in the game? And those are questions that I think we'll have to wait and see to be answered. But at the same time, I am excited. What is going to happen here, I don't know. But Cam Gill, I think, will make a difference coming up in the United Bowl. But then our offensive player of the year, as the league says, death, taxes, and Hakeem Butler. They're pretty much the three guaranteed things in life. He gets the ball, he's going for 40 yards a catch. Often, he gets a catch, he can get maybe 60, 70 yards every single catch. He is a difference maker. And I think the reason that he really deserved the Offensive Player of the Year recognition really comes down to that adaptability when you go from Frost to Perez, and that constant quarterback changeover, and to be able to still be reliable for whoever's throwing you the ball. Get down, get open, make the catch, secure it, get your yards when you can, score the touchdowns when you're able. And that separates yourself from the rest. And I think Hakeem Butler has been one of the larger talents across the UFL for all of its history, the last 3 seasons. And Butler's, I'm not going to say he's made for an award like this, but you give him a quarterback that can throw that ball. Hakeem Butler's going to make a difference. He gets a couple catches, he's going to get close to 100 yards. And when the fantasy side takes off, expect Hakeem Butler to be a favorite. But now that we looked at who is taking home that recognition this year, I wanted to take a look back at our first 2 years in the UFL and see who took those awards and see exactly how we feel about those to this day. So starting off, 2024, our all UFL team, good players. Wonderful talent. But then when we look at our coach of the year, Mike Nolan, head coach of the Panthers. Panthers did kind of come back, have a late season resurgence, get back into the playoffs. It was a good showing out of Mike Nolan. I do think there was some bad blood, at least between the fan base and the league, especially with Mike Nolan. Getting rid of him and maybe not shipping him off to a different team. A tough choice. MVP, though, Adrian Martinez. We'll get into MVP in a little bit. Then we've got Offensive Player of the Year, Hakeem Butler, sitting at, what a surprise, Hakeem Butler with another Offensive Player of the Year. And really, he's been the same. He's been consistent each year. You get the ball in his general vicinity, he's going to come down with that catch. He's going to make a difference in the game. Then looking at our Defensive Player of the Year, Breland Speaks out of the Panthers, was one of the larger talents on the Panthers team, and ultimately, not as large a name in football today, but at the same time, was a very, very unique player with some strong ability to impact games. Special teams player of the year, Chris Garrett, really is on that special teams coverage, which has been central for the Battlehawks for a long time. They know how to win games, and they know it comes down to all phases of the game. It's not just offense, it's not just defense, it's also special teams. And they put in that time in practice, and it shows. That's 2 years in a row they've been able to, not only separate themselves when it comes to the special teams side of the ball, but also be able to complement their game, get themselves to the playoffs. Doesn't make a difference, but they get there. Then our Sportsman of the Year, Darius Victor, out of the showboats. So looking ahead at 2025, our MVP and our Offensive Player of the Year was Bryce Perkins. And those that recall the UFL in 2025, Bryce Perkins really did steal the show. He was arguably the most dynamic talent the UFL had seen, and also the ability to go out and get wins for his team. One of the more impressive performances of any quarterback that I've seen in spring football. And unfortunately didn't end up winning the championship, but really separated himself from the rest of the quarterback talent as kind of a rising star. Didn't end up going on to the league. I believe now is spending time with the CFL. But at the same time, Bryce Perkins really, had he came back this season, would have been a favorite for the MVP, I think, on any team that he would have been on. Then we go, we've got the Defensive Player of the Year, PETA. No surprise there. Been consistent. This year, unfortunately, didn't get that recognition. But still did make a difference, throughout the season. Didn't end up with the all UFL honors either, but did make a difference. So Peta, really good performance. Special teams player of the year, Kendrick Whitehead. Safety sets kind of on that coverage side of things. And which is surprising, haven't been given it to the kickers the first 2 years. So it is kind of, I guess, added recognition for Mr. Brown for his recognition that he received. Then Coach of the Year, Shannon Harris, and Assistant Coach of the Year, Fred Keiss, the offensive coordinator. And honestly, when it came to Harris taking over that head coach role from, I think, the quarterback coach, Keiss really was kind of the consistent ship there, through the offense, really kept it on par for what we would expect out of the DC defenders. Then when you look at Sportsman of the Year, Travis Feeney, good performer, Travis Feeney, still around the league and ultimately making an impact. But looking back at our semifinal week, right quick, we did have quite an exciting week. Only 2 games, which don't get me wrong, we hate to see that, but it is worthwhile. So first we'll look at the most exciting, or I guess not a most exciting game, but the most viewed game of the weekend, which was the Kings versus the Battlehawks in the Battle Dome. And just as a little bit of a preview to what we might expect from the Kings in the United Bowl, expect Rodgers to probably throw for 20, maybe more, depending on how the rushing attack is. No interceptions in the semifinals. Let's hope he can keep that up going into the United Bowl. But when it comes to rushing, you got Wheeler, who's really stepped in to be the #1 running back for the Kings. 89 yards, 1 tud, good performance. Robinson, if he can step in, get 50 yards again, it'll be a game. It'll be an absolute game. The Kings, because when they're running backs are getting yards, and it really opens up their passing attack because you don't have so many people in coverage. So you get Winstead opened up. He gets 66 yards, a tud. If he can duplicate that going into this week, it'll be very exciting to see what happens for the team. Then we've got Lucky sitting at 38 yards, so that's impressive. If he can contribute that 38, consistently, don't be surprised if we see a difference made in the game. Then you got Gill with 6 tackles. Expect him to make his presence felt going into this game. And then if we can, we'll take a look at our other game, which was the DC Defenders traveling to Florida to take on the Orlando Storm. Not in Orlando, but traveling to to Florida nonetheless to take on the Storm. So when we look at the game and kind of preview the defenders, we do kind of know who is going to be that starting quarterback. It took a few weeks to figure it out, but as it stands right now, Jason Bean will be the starting quarterback going into the United Bowl, and played well. 233 yards, 1 tud, 0 interceptions, 87 QBR, which could use some improvement, but ultimately, and also maybe Jason Bean shouldn't be throwing the ball 33 times, but he's got talent, so you might as well use him. Then you go into our rushing, and generally Jackson should be our #1, but only got 33 yards. So we don't want to see that. But what is a benefit is their distribution between Valladay, Smith. They're able to run the ball, and they're able to make a difference. So don't be surprised if we see them, have a larger role going into the United Bowl. But if one of these backs starts to take off, Jackson, Smith, Valladay, they may end up staying in and getting a larger share of those reps. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. If somebody's hot, you got to take them. You got to take them. Then you get into receiving. Kuti really, I'm not sure how this has happened, but has started. It would seem to develop a very good receiver relationship between Bean and himself. And then Moore has kind of been the safety blanket for Bean these last few weeks, last 2 weeks at least. And ultimately, good receiver. And he's excited for the United Bowl as well. 55 yards, 1 tud. He'd probably get pretty close to that this week as well. Touchdown may be optimistic, but as it stands right now, we'll see what happens. But then looking at the defense real quick, Gray, Baker, Smith, those are going to be your main names going on in the season. And then Garyon. With this, in the United Bowl, Garyon going to make his presence felt, certainly. But before we go into kind of looking ahead at the United Bowl, let's take a little chat roundup. Let's go Tawx. Thank you, sir. And then a question. Have you heard of our Lord Lion L. Johnson? Well, yes, sir, I have. My friend that enjoys Heated Rivals also enjoys Lionel Johnson. I wonder if he wants to be a heated rival with him. Hard to say. I'll have to ask him. I'll have to ask. But looking ahead at the United Bowl, we know what our matchup is. It will be presented by Credit One, which was kind of an exciting development for the league. Bringing on a big name sponsor like they are, kind of a big move. And ultimately, Credit One, they got sponsorship on a bunch of stuff, but they are ultimately coming on. It's a huge move for. Huge move for both the league and Credit One, doing a little bit of a friends with benefits between them. And that may be it for us, gentlemen. Or my mouse died. Let me see. Nope, that's it for us. Are we still with us? Wonderful. So, huge move. Looking ahead at the bowl, $19 tickets, pretty cheap. You got 50 Cent going, doing the halftime show. We got Fit in the Cut. So should be a very good time. Then looking ahead, also, it just kind of more a know before you go for the United Bowl. We do have a little bit of a podcast, 2-minute long, which is a little weird. But you look at plan ahead. So DC's going to be packed this weekend. You got the UFC fight. Got a lot going on. Just general visitation of DC is always strong. So when you get to trying to get to Audi Field, you can take the Metro, take the Green Line and Navy Yard Station, and then go to La Enfant, and then pop off, take the bus, going on the 74, maybe the P6, and then you could also ride your bike. And they have complimentary bike valets. How nice is that? And there's Capital Bike Share. Then you look at the Fan Fest. That'll be 1 p.m., so that's going to be kind of more the tailgate for the game. Then 1:30 p.m. you got all gates are opening, so first 5,000 fans in the gate will get a United Bowl t-shirt. That's an hour and a half early. So don't be surprised if it fills up quick. Happy hour special. We got a $5 Miller Lite and Tecate. What? That's before kickoff? That is awesome. Get in, have $5 beers, and you get a UFL or United Bowl t-shirt. Yeah, that could be a move. Then you're looking at the merchandise. They'll have a lot of it. Defenders, Kings. I'm surprised they're not going to have others as well. Heck yeah, they can purchase official merchandise too. Then with ticket assistance, they'll have some folks on site to help. Special guests, they'll have Mixmaster Mike will pump up the fans. He'll be performing throughout the game, during the pregame show, during halftime, during the postgame. Should be a great time. Then national anthem, that'll be performed by Voices of Service. So a quartet of U.S. Army veterans. Pretty good performance. Considering they were a top 5 finish on America's Got Talent. But kickoff 3 p.m. Halftime, of course, we talked about it. 50 Cent will be giving the halftime show. Fifth will be in the building performing for everyone. Then we got the trophy presentation. So don't be surprised if that ends up taking some time. I hope they end up putting it on TV, which they have struggled to do in years past. Before we pop back in to some United Bowl discussion, let's do a little chat roundup. I agree. It is a good question for my friend who likes Heated rivals. Seems James is quite excited about the 50 Cent halftime. I am too. Just imagine that on the TV. It's going to be pretty sweet. Probably will be a little scandalous. And Mixmaster Mike, come on. Come on. That's a great time. Everybody should enjoy themselves. And looking ahead, Kings, it's going to come down to their kicker, for one, being able to make a difference. Then it's going to come down to the defense. And if Rodgers can play a good game, and let's say get a few passes, make a few, if he can throw 2 touchdowns, they win the game. If they don't, it'll be a long night for him. But you got a good kicker who can make the ball go through the uprights from just about anywhere on the field. Then you got Cam Gill, gonna make a difference in the game. Probably will get a sack, maybe even 2, maybe even more, especially with Jason Bean. I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna say he's a perfect quarterback. There will be opportunities to really make a difference. And looking at Rodgers, a showcase talent, good story coming into the. I expect there to be some promos on Rodgers. Gets found through the showcase, backup quarterback, starting quarterback gets traded out of town to clear the way for Rodgers. Really good performance. And then also, just an interesting note more than anything else, Rodgers and Jason Bean both ended up playing for the same high school. So an interesting caveat heading on to heading into the United Bowl. Then a little look at the chat. We got a little statement. It seems the kickers are the best players in the league. I would agree. I wouldn't agree. Well, I honestly would agree. If you're talking like NFL ready, who's able to go to the NFL, make a difference, contribute, I'm going to say it's the kickers. They're the ones most ready. Maybe it's because of the kicker position, but I'm going to say the kickers really are, a high point in the league and have been and will continue. And then heck yeah, we do want even more. Everybody wants more. Who doesn't want more? How could you not want more? But looking at the defenders, it should be a good time for them. And I now realize everyone is seeing the exact same thing. How about that? Sorry. Fixing it. Fixing it now. Trying. Seems you guys are not able to see. Or are you? What is going on here? Don't worry, I got it. Just 1 second. Nice. We have no idea what's going on, folks. I apologize. We'll get ready, wrap it up here. Our graphics are a little messed up, unfortunately. Trying to figure it out for us. Should have it resolved in just a second. We do have our boys. Okay, it is coming through correct. It's just not showing up right on my end. So let's make sure everything is good to go. We will give it just a second, and ultimately we should be all right, I'm hoping. Let's see what happens here. Everything is wonked out. Weird. Okay, it is working. Well, we're just going to have to go with it from there. So, all in all, should be a great weekend for the United Bowl. We will credit one, making a big, bold step. sponsoring the bowl. Should be a good time. I really expect Defenders and the Kings. It'll be a shootout. We'll have some more on the prediction front and probably more of a look. Oh boy, and more of a look. Yeah, I think I figured out what my issue was there, chat. I think I figured out my issue, and I think it mainly pertained to OBS, and OBS will need to be restarted. So have no fear, everyone. We are quite all right. But let's take a look around sports where things are at. I know we got the NBA Finals going on. Let's get into a little bit of alternative coverage, if it'll let us, which it may not, potentially, or it may be crashing. It's a me, a Borat. I just watched a Borat recently, believe it or not. I like a Borat. Do you guys like a Borat? Chat? 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 Do you like Borat? Chat? All right, we will see what is going on the ESPN front. Apologies for all of the technical difficulties, but I will say, just to kind of reiterate it back, we do got 3 days till the United Bowl, so do be excited because, you know, when it comes down to it, Redmond and Shannon Harris really are going to be competing, and they will be putting up quite a fight for the end of the season and the recognition that it brings. Little chat roundup here. Chat, 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 chat. Yeah, all them tabs open do be hitting. So like if you just look, we got what do we got? 98 megabytes on 100 megabytes pretty much for every single tab. What is this one? 100,000 megabytes? No, just 100. Just 100. 117. Yeah, we're sitting pretty high, but then when you look at ones like this, it'll be like 648. Kind of high. This one's probably at 1.7 gigabytes for one website. 1.7 gigabytes of RAM is going to one website. So kind of terrible, but you know, we try. We try to do our best around here. Kind of a one-man operation, but we are ultimately trying to bring you guys the best product we can. And if it will ever let me go to ESPN, which it does not seem it wants to allow me to do. So, I suppose we'll just do a little more chat roundup. 50, here we come, baby. You know how it is. DC, make the drive. I mean, you're probably local to DC. Make the drive. We'll freaking chat it up. Make the drive, dude. Go check it out. Check out the Fan Fest, the Wharf, the kickoff party on Thursday at 5 p.m. at the Wharf. Should be a very good time. You'll have coaches, players, mascots, United. The trophy will be there. You can take pictures with the trophy. You might even be able to hold it. Then you can do fan activities. We got the battle of the DJs, some giveaways. You going, Tawx? I wish I could, but I unfortunately am unable to, though I really was planning on it, but unfortunately ended up not being able to happen. But $20 tickets. If I was able to be in DC, I would be there. $20 ticket should be a good time. You got Fitty. We're talking Fitty? Fitty? As the halftime show? Come on. 50 as the halftime show should be a very good time. Anytime 50's involved, I think you're gonna be in for a good time. And ultimately, there's a lot to be excited about, especially when it comes to people like his music. People, I think, will really enjoy it and have a good time. And ultimately, he seems excited. So don't be surprised if he kind of goes all out. And what we've seen across the league from some of the other halftime performances that we saw in the home openers, they put on a good show. The football product is good. The musical product is good. It's all in all, they kind of got it down. And I think that's a testament to ESPN. They do have that experience. but ultimately very good. What's the trophy looking like? The United Bowl trophy will look like. See the center like twisting spire with this gold ball? Basically that with like a little bit of a plaque at the bottom. This one shows it as silver. I'm unsure why. Last year it was gold like this. So I'm wondering why this one shows it as silver. But ultimately, it's kind of like a swirly design with a little ball, and then there's a round plaque at the bottom. Little chat roundup here. Chat, chat, chat. Yeah, you got to be excited. You got to be excited. Man, if I could go to DC, man, I would really love it. I'd be out there interviewing the fans, asking them what they think about the UFL, coming back with just some expanded knowledge, some a better understanding of the fan bases across the league. It really would be an awesome experience, but not always do we get lucky like that, unfortunately. I think ESPN's crashed. I'm gonna guess so. I'm gonna guess it has totally crashed. Probably going too crazy for the finals. Or I just can't look anything up because my memory is too freaking high. I'm gonna guess it's that. That stinks. Where's this one? Close this one. Is this working? Maybe not. ESPN World Cup. Will anything ever take me to ESPN? No. No, it won't. What about Gemini? Can Gemini answer? Let's see. Chat roundup. Chat roundup. Yikes. The people are concerned about the tabs. Too many open tabs. I understand, sir. I understand. I understand. My computer has VRAM and I haven't figured out how to access it and get it operational. Could be contributing to our issues. But also, I just like could crash the hell out of my shitlers. When I was going through my ESPN life. So we can't even nuke. Let's see if anything will work, which I do not think so. Too many tabs. Too many tabs, too many tabs. Close some tabs, brother. Everybody's crazy about the tabs. Just close the damn tabs. Everybody's on the tabs. Tabs, tabs, tabs. We love tabs. We love tabs. Will anything ever load? For some reason, I'm able to keep streaming, but nothing on my webpage will load. Let me try a different strat here. Let me try a different strat. Different window. Same issue. Anti-tab talk. This is all, that's what it is. It's just a bunch of anti-tab talk. Just talking bad on my tabs. Over 24 tabs, brother. That's just one window. You don't understand. I got multiple windows, multiple tabs. If anything ever loads, which it might not, probably won't. More than likely won't. We'll see. Ultimately, we'll just chat roundup. Close your tabs. Close tabs. Your internet hates you. I think your computer is gonna die. My computer might die. Honestly, it's possible. It's quite possible. Chat, you guys may know. You guys may be tapped in with the internet dynamics and feel its emotions like the great tree of Uwa. I wonder if I can go to Wiki. Wikipedia. We're tabbed up on a tab day. What can I say? We are tabbed up on a tab day. Close the maps. This is where they played. Go, go, go. ESPN. Never. It says never. Let's thin the herd here. Thin the herd. Time to thin the herd. Time to thin the herd. See you, buddy. Catch you next time. Maybe at some point, maybe one of my maybe tabs will open. Maybe. If we're lucky. Potentially. What's the chat got to say? I closed the Google Maps. Wiki this tab. Too many tabs. You have 3 of the same tabs open. Yes, sir. Tab this wiki. Is this anti-tab talk? Are you guys anti-tab? I've got many a tab. Hundreds of tabs. Tabs everywhere. Tabs for me, tabs for thee. In case I want to look at the all UFL team defense, maybe I want to peruse over, check out the special teams. Yeah, dude, chat is kind of going wild, dude. Chat's kind of revolting on me. Chat's saying, yo, dude, we're anti-tab. You need to chill on your tab action. That's too much tabs for the tabs, dude. I know it's tabbed up on Tuesday, but brother, it ain't even Tuesday. Brother, there are no tabs for the rest of you. It's all mine. They're all mine. This is a mercantilist internet, and I'm taking it all. I need it. I just have to have it. Plain and simple. Look at all these tabs. We're pro-tab in this household. We got tabs over here, tabs over there, couple tabs here, maybe a few tabs on this side. How many tabs you guys got? Chat, let's check in. How many tabs do you got open? Chat, how many tabs you got? How many tabs we got? Sound off. How many tabs we got open? Dude, no tabs for any of you. Tabs are all mine. I wish something would load, dude, but nothing's loading. I think I'm cooked. I think my internet might be just cooked. Yeah, there is very little processing going on. So that's not cool. But hey, we got the United Bowl on Saturday. See, dude, if only my computer was hooked up to a data center, then we'd have no tab processing issues. Dude, all these tabs, dude, that's what you need. All that processing power. It's all that data, dude, of all my tabs. Just so many tabs, dude. I just can't believe you guys are so anti-tab. Like, how can I have so many people in the chat that are just anti the tab? He said, I hate the tabs, dude. I'm sick of them. Just ain't happening for you guys. It ain't happening. Let's try this. What if we go to Microsoft? Can I open a tab there? Oh, no way I can. All right, let's cover the NBA Finals. All right. Current score, 81-59. Kind of looking bad. All right, 81-59. 81-59. Let's see. What is the play-by-play? Where is my play-by-play? Currently sitting at a timeout. We are in a timeout, a commercial break. Good thing you are here with me so you can be entertained. Well, considering the UFL section was in the first 45 minutes, Mr. Zach Winner 1245. You missed most of the UFL part. We're just kind of in the chat mode. This is more just the pulpit where we talk things out. You know, we're just chatting it up. We're getting some chat, some chat interaction. You could be chatting it up with the chat. This channel is about football, but it also seconds as a channel about how to break your computer. No, that was not playing from my phone. That was the stream coming from the computer. Plays the audio. Oh shit, you can see it then. I'm gonna get copyrighted. Okay, show me my play-by-play. Still in a timeout. For some reason, it will not. Let me see if I can change this up on them. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Explorer EX my E. Does that work? Let's see. Let's see. Covering the NBA Finals, cutting her teeth as on the Gamecast. Oh, and it canceled it out. Too much. Oh, it's OBS that's doing it. It is OBS. I see. That makes sense. Well, stream the game for people. I can't do that. I'll get copyrighted. Well, what's going on, chat? Tell me what's going on, chat. What do you guys think about Corey Chamblin being the assistant coach of the year? Pretty exciting, huh? Good for him. No balls. Oh, not the hate. Not the hate for the Tawx. For the Tawx. Just chatting it up. Just getting some chat time, you know? Chat. Well, not too much going on for us there, considering OBS is breaking my computer. I don't know that there's much we can do there. Alright, we're back in, just like that. Oh no, I'm just a dingling. Alright, we're going to try this again. Chat. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Corey Chamblin is the dog. He is the dog. The big bad dog. He's the dog, the big bad dog. Alright, what do we got here? Rebounded. Jalen Brunson misses the field goal. Dylan Harper gets a defensive rebound. Okay, we're moving quick here. We're moving quick. Mr. Harper with a defensive rebound. Where are we going? We're going up and down the court. De'Aaron Fox gets a bad pass, turns it over. Jalen Brunson steals the ball. We got a game. Still 81-59, so kind of a 20-point differential, but it is basketball, so it could change over pretty quick. A dog who eats his own stars. That's what I'm talking about. I got this friend, he loves heated rivalry. And Lionel Johnson. I got this friend. Victor Wembanyama gets his defensive rebound. After a missed field goal. And then we get a missed three-point out of Devin Vassell, which is rebounded by Cat. Going up and down the court. Okay, three-pointer is good. OG Anunoby makes a 23-foot three-point jumper with the assist off a cat when he was driving it down the field. San Antonio still got a 97% chance to win. Kind of exciting stuff if you're a basketball fan. Who's going to take home the championship for the NBA? Who will it be? That is the question we will have to see. What other sports might we have going on across? Check into some baseball. We do have the Minnesota Twins taking on the Detroit Tigers. Tigers currently are losing by 3. Let's check play-by-play. Summers is pitching for Detroit. Pitches to Cody Clemens. We got a strike. Caught him looking. Spurs. You think Spurs gonna get the win, Mr. James? New York, win or lose, got to be wiped off the map. Well, you want to talk about fan bases. You want to talk about that fan base. They do quite well. But we've got the Minnesota Twins taking on Detroit Tigers. Current score is 6-3. Texas taking on Kansas City 4-4. That's the end of the 8th. Top of the 7th, Chicago Cubs taking on the Colorado Rockies 1-0. Milwaukee's up by 3 over the Athletics. Houston's down by 1 to the Angels. Boston lost by 2 against Tampa Bay. And the Yanks got a win 4-over. Now Breisky is pitching for Detroit. They changed the pitchers. Seems they changed the pitchers. Interesting. You'd think they'd have a better graphic. Nope, terrible graphics. Of course they do. What can you expect? We'll head back to the NBA. Check back in on the finals. Play-by-play, 81-65. The Knicks have closed the gap from 22-16. What will happen ahead? Check in with chat. New York, yes, it will get wiped off the face of the earth. All right, rebound. Nice. Think we are gonna close her down here. So thank you everybody for joining. We love having you in the discussion. Chat was lively tonight, so appreciate that from our chat, our #1 top 3 fans, couple new ones as well. Always great to have you guys joining into the discussion. So thank you again. Always great to have you. Have a great rest of your evening. We'll catch you tomorrow for some more postseason talks. Starting at 9:30 p.m. per the standard of what we've been going at. So we'll see you then. Thanks for jumping on today and participating in the discussion. Have a wonderful evening. And if you're not, make sure you're like, subscribe, notified so you can keep up with the discussion as it continues moving forward. And otherwise, we'll catch you tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for joining in with us. Bye now.